Our second speaker for this morning, I'd like to introduce him. Mr. Lemeck Jeremia Sibande works for the National Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. He has a national diploma in analytical chemistry from the University of Johannesburg, formerly known as Technikon Witwatersrand and Johannesburg. And he has a BCom degree in law from the University of South Africa, UNISA. His areas of responsibility includes, amongst others, the development of national policies, strategies, legislation, norms and standards on pollution, chemicals and waste management, as well as the maintenance of information systems for chemicals and waste management. Lastly, his presentation will be focused on extended producer responsibility, EPR, in South Africa. And let's talk about what has happened after 2 years of implementation. One of our hashtags is change challenge. So what have we done and what do we continue to do? Mr. Lemeck, please come up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks so much, Program Director. Good morning to all of you. I think I've been introduced already. I'll quickly go through my presentation. As I have already been introduced, I'm from the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. I'm responsible for a section called Chemicals and Waste Policy and Information Management. But I deal mostly with chemicals and waste policy. I also did some work on waste information, but now my focus is on chemicals and waste policy. Thank you so much also to Circular Energy for the invitation. We are really honored. We've been working a lot with Circular Energy as one of our, if we can call them our clients in the department, on a number of issues, including EPR. What Joanne was saying here, it really touched my heart. I like the way she spoke. She spoke from the heart. I think that's the type of a speaker I am. I also like speaking from the heart. So, but what I would say, colleagues, we have a challenge in the country, in the province where we are now. As we might all know, we don't have enough space. We don't have landfill space in Gauteng. The decision has been made by the Gauteng Provincial Department of Environmental Affairs to say, from now on, they will no longer be issuing waste licenses for landfill sites in the province because there's no more space. So what does that mean? It means that we need to go the circular route, since disposal is no longer an option for waste. So my presentation, in the few minutes I've been given, I will touch briefly on the implementation of EPR after 2 years of the update on EPR implementation after 2 years of implementation. EPR as a policy was developed in the country way back in 2019. We also understand that at that time, the consultation was not that much extensive. We all know that we had a pandemic, meaning that we couldn't consult as much as we would have wanted. Hence, you would see a lot of people don't really know much about EPR. So we're hoping that platforms like this will assist us to drive the message so that our stakeholders and the public at large know exactly what EPR is all about. So if we can move to the next slide, please. Sorry, thank you. It's me. Thanks. Yes, my presentation will touch briefly on the background. Maybe before I go there, let me indicate that we are now in the third year of EPR implementation. EPR implementation started in year 2022 after Minister published the regulations in the Gazette, which were published in November 2020. But the date of implementation was deferred to the 5th of May 2021, meaning the effective date of the EPR policy it's 5th of May 2021, as per the government gazette. So then a lot has happened, and I must also indicate that very few countries on our continent are implementing EPRs. In fact, some are even learning from us, despite the weaknesses that we also have, which we also acknowledge. However, there are a lot of lessons that they're also learning from us. And other countries, for example, in Europe, have been implementing this for the past 30 years or so. So you would see that there's also a lot that you can learn from them as well. So my presentation will touch on the background, the overview of the regulations, that is the EPR regulations. And these regulations go with notices. Each notice focuses on a specific sector. We've got about 6 sectors that have been identified by Minister where EPR should be implemented. The first one is the paper and packaging and some single-use products. That is the first sector. The second is the EEE, which I think most of you are familiar with. That is electrical and electronic equipment sector. Then the third one is a lighting sector. I know most people call it lightning. It's a lighting sector, lighting. Yeah. Then the fourth one is the lubricant oil sector, which came into effect early last year in May, and also the portable batteries. I heard Jenny was speaking about portable batteries. There's also a notice that seeks to deal with portable batteries. Then lastly, we also have a sector that focuses on pesticides. There are 6 sectors that Minister identified. So when you read the regulations, you need to read them alongside those 6 sector notices. Then I will also touch briefly on how are we doing in terms of registrations. Registration is the first level of compliance. That is meaning if any producer produces any of the products that I just mentioned, the first thing they need to do is to register with the department as a producer of the identified products. Then again, there's an issue of financial arrangements. We know that if you only implement EPR through an EPR scheme. Circular Energy is one of the PROs that are implementing an EPR scheme. So then that EPR scheme needs to be funded so that the targets and all the other compliance requirements that are in the regulations are achieved. Then there's also an area of reporting. That is how we're doing in terms of how the scheme is doing in terms of performance. Then there's also an issue of compliance and enforcement, which is a big elephant in the room when it comes to EPR. I will touch briefly on compliance and enforcement. Then lastly, last and not last actually, I also touch briefly on challenges and some of the initiatives that the department has undertaken is also undertaking, that is on EPR roadshows. Then I won't say much on this because I'm preaching to the converted here. But what is key is that the policy of EPR seeks to divert waste away from landfill site. That is the main aim of EPR. So I don't have to take waste for disposal because we don't have enough space and it's not advancing our transition towards a circular economy. But how do we do that? We do that by increasing recycling. Increasing recycling, which is one of the options, and also increasing collection of these identified products when they reach their end of life. Then again, what is key also in EPR is to shift the responsibility for these identified products away from local municipalities. As you might know that our local municipalities are struggling. It's one sphere of government that is really struggling when it comes to the delivery of services. So then now EPR is sort of a measure that seeks to relieve them of this pressure by diverting some of these products that have been identified away from landfill sites. Then we all know where do we derive our mandate as government, and we know about the Constitution of the country, Section 24, which has got under the Bill of Rights, the section that talks to the environmental right, that everyone has a right to an environment that is not harmful to their health and well-being. So then we need to give effect to that right as government and also as a sector. So then it says here to have the environment protected for the benefit of present and future generation. There's an element of sustainability there through reasonable legislative and other measures that prevent pollution and ecological degradation. So one of the measures that is mentioned in the EPR is one of those measures that seeks to prevent pollution and ecological degradation. Then we also are aware that from the Constitution, there is the Waste Act. In fact, there's a NEMA before the Waste Act. NEMA is an act, they call it National Environmental Management Act, which came into effect in 1998. Under NEMA, we've got a legislation called the Waste Act, which I hope most of you are aware of. And the Waste Act gives powers to the minister to establish, to develop. I don't know what happened. To develop what you call a national waste management strategy. This waste management strategy was developed way back in 2020. And it has got, I'm hoping to come back, it has got 3 pillars, key pillars. The first one is the waste minimization pillar, as you can see on the screen, which again also talks to the minimization of waste, especially plastic packaging, and also increasing recycling and maximizing the role of the waste sector in the circular economy. You could see there the waste management, the national waste management strategy has targets. The 5-year targets want to reduce the waste that goes to landfill site by 40%. So meaning by 2030, we must have reduced the waste going to landfill site by 40%. Then 10 years later, by 55%, and then 15-year target is 70%. And our ambitious target is to make sure that no waste goes to landfill site beyond 15 years. Then there are some of the benefits from this EPR. I think I touched to most of them, but one of them is that reducing waste that goes to the landfill site increases recovery and recycling, and again protecting human health as well as an environment. I won't say much on this one. This is how we are coming from with regards to these regulations. I've spoken to those to the Waste Act, and I hope you can see there. If you look there, there's also I also put the tire plan there. We also know about waste tires, that it's also another form of EPR where the responsibility for the product is transferred or is extended to the producer. But the difference between the tire plan and the EPR scheme, as we know it, the notice that I just mentioned, is that with the tire plan, the tire levy, the tax is collected by government. It goes to the fiscus, and then that's how tires are managed, waste tires are managed. But when it comes to EPR, for these 6 products I mentioned, the fee must be collected by the PRO, not government. Then the PRO must implement the scheme and achieve the targets that have been set by government in the notices. I think I spoke to this. The first thing, like I said, the first level of compliance is registration. I must also indicate here we are experiencing a big challenge when it comes to registration of identified product or producers. And you'll see when I get to the slide that talks to compliance and enforcement, what are the measures that we have put in place to try and deal with this issue of free riders. The producers who are not even registered with the department, and they are really undermining the great effort that is made by the compliant producers. So there is a huge focus. In fact, we have ramped up efforts as government to deal with these free riders. There are so many measures that we have put in place, which I will talk to briefly. But what is key is that the first thing that a producer must do, they must register with the department. And as soon as they are registered with the department, especially those that, for example, in this case, when Minister published a notice in 2021, she gave six months for all producers to register. 6 months is a long time. So there's no excuse why the producer couldn't register within 6 months, because the notice was then issued. Then now, but for those companies or producers that were established after the notice, meaning new companies, have about 3 months to register after establishment. That is, I think that is clear in terms of registration. The purpose of these regulations, I hope you can see there, I already spoke to it. It just provides the framework for the development, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of EPR scheme. It also ensures effective and efficient management of waste at the end of life. And it also encourages, which talks directly to the theme of this conference, also encourages and enables circular economy initiatives. As a country, we are transitioning to a circular economy. Circular economy is not in full force in the country, but there are a lot of initiatives that are happening which you appreciate, where circular economy is being encouraged and promoted. Okay. This is the structure of the regulations. I won't talk much on this one since we're not in a workshop kind of setup, but these are the regulations that we use to enforce, or rather to monitor the implementation of EPR. You could see that there's about 13 regulations, in these EPR regulations. But what is key, as with all legislation, is a definition. 5 minutes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the issue is the definition, but that is what is key. So the big definition here is the definition of a producer. We have tried in our regulations to indicate what do we mean by a producer. Then it was then defined. Technology is letting me down. Maybe let me. The first thing. Well, we did define. Okay, this is the scope of the regulations. That it tells you what does the regulation cover. I won't say much on this one because of time. Then these are the measures, meaning the obligations upon the producers that the producers need to comply with. As you can also see there, producer must establish or implement an EPR scheme. That is an option number 1. Number 2, they can either join a scheme that is being run by a PRO, which is what most producers prefer. Then again, these are some of the EPR measures that PROs as well as producers need to comply with. That is the life cycle assessment. Life cycle assessment, and this one I must also indicate to this conference that we experiencing a big challenge on life cycle assessment. We receive a lot of inquiries on how to conduct life cycle assessment, and at the moment we've even engaged CSIR to assist in developing some guidelines that will assist the sector on how to implement life cycle assessment for the identified products. The regulations also has got a number of obligations on the PROs. One of them is the contracting with service providers. We know that PROs some of them don't own these facilities. They don't own recycling facilities. They don't own treatment facilities, but they don't own some of these waste management companies. But they can contract with them to make sure that the targets in the notices are achieved. Then another obligation is the issue of waste picker integration. You see there, it says they compensate waste pickers and reclaimers. Waste pickers, as we all know, as part of the informal economy, play a huge role in recycling. You all know that in Vinino neighborhoods where you're staying, you'll see these guys pushing trolleys almost every week. So they play a huge role. So for the services they provide, they need to be compensated in the interest of social justice, because they cannot, number one, by compensating them, first of all, they collect these recyclables from our households, take them to the nearest recycling facility, and they get paid for that. The sales. But again, over and above that, remember, they also provide a service. Over and above the sales, there's a service they provide. They need to also be compensated for that. I'm not sure, program director, if Okay. Then they need to be compensated for that. One of the biggest challenges we have is the compensation of waste pickers. The regulations are clear to say they must be compensated through a collection service fee as from November 2022. We know that there are challenges with the registration of waste pickers. However, there's also some progress that has been made on that front, which we also appreciate from PROs, including Circular Energy. Another part, the part of financial arrangements. Remember, a scheme has to be funded, but on this one, which I need to be upfront and honest with all of you here, the regulations says that a PRO must determine, together with their members, that is the producer members, must determine a fee, and then that fee and propose it to the minister, that is the Minister of Forest, Fisheries and Environment. Then the minister must then consider or evaluate the proposal that has been submitted, and then consult with the Minister of Finance for concurrence. Because remember, now we're talking about finance now, which is a mandate of another department. So hence there's a need for that concurrence. So on that one, PROs, including Circular Energy, have done that part. Over the past 2 years, they've been submitting these proposed EPR fees per product. Then those fees then were submitted, were evaluated by the department using the tools that we developed, and then also, and then minister then requested the Minister of Finance to grant concurrence for within 60 days. However, there's been challenges which I will talk to maybe later, since the concurrence has not yet been granted for this year, 2024. So there are challenges, but there's some ongoing consultation. Even yesterday, we had a meeting again, and there's also another meeting happening tomorrow with National Treasury to try and fast track this process. Then another compliance requirement is the admin cost. As we all know that a PRO must be a non-profit company. Then as a non-profit company, the admin costs are regulated, which means for this year, 2024, the admin cost is 12%. I hope you can see the 12%. And the admin costs are specific to the compensation of employees of the PRO, the issue of utilities, rentals and stuff, and lastly also the setting up of systems like your ICT systems. Then that 12% must focus on that, meaning the other, is it 82? Yeah, I think it's 82% must then be invested to the sector in terms of infrastructure and establishing system, the collection system, and all, to make sure that the targets are achieved. So that's what the regulation says. Then, in terms of reporting, I won't go through each of those reports, but I would like to appreciate also Circular Energy for complying with this requirement as well, submitting reports on or even before the due date. Key report there is the last report, the annual performance audit report, which they've been submitting for the past 2 years in 2022. And we also received your reports for 2023 before the 31st of May 2024. So we also appreciate that and encourage that level of compliance. Then these are the offenses. I won't talk to the offenses. Then in terms of how we're doing in terms of registration, I hope you can see there, we have a system that has been developed by the department. As I said initially, to say producers and PROs must register with the department through a system. Then so far in terms of stats, you can see that you are sitting at about 1,593 producers and PROs registered. And across the 6 sectors, you can see that some sectors, the registration is quite low. But let me also indicate that these numbers are still under, there's still a serious problem of under registration. There are a lot of free riders out there who are not registered on this, but you can see that the numbers how we're doing in terms of registration. Then I spoke to the concurrence that we're still awaiting for, and there's been concurrence already received for the past 2 years, even though the decision the concurrence decision normally comes quite late in the year. We're also aware of that. We hope to improve going forward on that one as a department. I spoke to this process. I won't say much on this. For this year, 2024, again, we did receive 12 proposed EPR fees from PROs. Maybe let me also indicate that you might have seen in the slides on statistics that we've got quite a huge number of PROs. Some of them are not even reporting because we only received 17 in the whole country, which is a big concern. But I'm happy that there's now a serious compliance and enforcement strategy. I mean, to track down those free riders, both in terms of registration and reporting. I won't say much on this one. I spoke to the EPR fee concurrence. I also spoke to the external performance audit reports. This is how, in 2022, this is how we're doing, but this one is mostly on the paper and packaging sector. I hope you can see there. The reds shows non-achievement of targets. So you could see that we are doing quite well in the plastic PET oil bottles, as you can see there on the graph. There, there's a compliance, but on other products, the compliance is still a big issue when it comes to complying with the targets in the notices. This is just exactly what is there, but just are the numbers. Okay, in terms of compliance and compliance and enforcement action, we have categorized non-compliance into three. Number one, the first non-compliance is failure to register. That is, in fact, for now, in terms of focus, we're focusing on those ones. Considering the capacity we have as government to enforce these regulations, we're focusing on those who are not registered, and those that are not registered are being issued with notices. At the moment, if the first notice that is issued is the pre-compliance notice, and if a free rider does not comply with the pre-compliance notice, then the next notice that is issued is the final compliance notice. And the final compliance notice is not just a piece of paper. It has got huge implication even on the reputation of the company, because when the company is doing these external audits, if a company is found to have been served with the final compliance notice, this is a material, what I can call it, it's a serious finding against the company. So companies must really shy away or run away from being issued with these final compliance notices. Then again, we also have those that are registered but not reporting. We're still coming for those ones at the moment because it's still a non-compliance. But now we need to come up with a strategy considering the capacity we have as government on those ones. Then lastly, those that are reporting, are registered, reporting, but not complying with the targets. For those ones, we have adopted a collaborative approach because at least they've registered, they're reporting, just that there are issues now with achieving the targets. But on that one, there's a lot of bilaterals that are happening between government and those affected PROs. I think in the interest of time, I won't say much on this. These are some of the challenges that we are experiencing in the implementation of EPR for the past 2 years. What I can indicate is the cooperation with municipalities is a big problem. Municipalities are complaining to say some PROs are not active in their jurisdictions. And then now the regulations are saying that PROs must cooperate with municipalities to ensure the recovery of material from the municipal waste. Remember, municipal waste municipalities are custodians of municipal waste. So then, and some of the municipal waste contain these products that I've just mentioned. So now there needs to be some working together between municipalities and PROs. Then there's the issue of free riders. I spoke to the free riders. And again, this issue of, we receive a lot of inquiries in our department. I hope colleagues, PROs are aware of them. Even now, if you can go through our emails, you will be shocked at the number of inquiries we're receiving. Some of them, if we don't respond even on time, we are being escalated even to our minister. So please bear with us, considering also the capacity we have, but we are really trying to deal with these inquiries that we are receiving. Then some of the learnings I will talk to. What is key now, I'll talk not to all of them actually, let me talk to, there's a need to strengthen compliance and enforcement. Because if we don't deal with free riders, even those that are compliant will end up being discouraged, you see. So government must be seen to be doing something. We have engaged with our compliance and enforcement unit, commonly known our Green Scorpions, the Environmental Management Inspectorate. They have got a plan, which I think in another forum, they will come and present it here. And now there are even plans to conduct what we call blitz operations. Blitz meaning to make these unannounced visits to those free riders without even issuing a notice. Just to make, I mean, if there's if you saw a particular PRO, a producer that is not compliant, you can then inform the department, and the department then will conduct a visit unannounced to that facility. So we have identified a few, I won't mention names, a few of those that will be visited by our Green Scorpions very soon. There's a plan to do that. We call it a blitz operation, an unannounced visit by our EMIs. That is the Environmental Management Inspectorate. So some of what we have done so far, we also have conducted some EPR roadshows just to share information and awareness on EPR. We did a roadshow on the 5th of July, 2023, which I think also Secular Energy attended it. And another one, we did it in KZN in Pietermaritzburg in October last year. We did another one in the Western Cape. And then we are proposing to do another one in the Northwest, but we'll still be rolling out these EPR roadshows throughout the country. I think in the interest of time, let me talk to this slide then from there. Yeah, we are aware of all the challenges that we are experiencing with EPR implementation. Colleagues might be aware that last year in May 2023, Minister published amendments to these regulations. Yeah, then he published amendment to these regulations. In fact, the regulations were published in December 2021, but we received a lot of comments from the public to such an extent that we couldn't publish them for implementation because most of the comments were so substantive, meaning we had to now republish so as to solicit as much comments as possible. Then this is what we did then in May 2023. We have received a number of comments and we are considering them. What we'll do in terms of the plan by quarter three, that is of the government financial year, that is between October and December, we'll then have finalized the amendments of these EPR regulations. And hopefully Minister will then publish them for implementation. That is end of this calendar year. So that's the plan. What I'm saying is all the comments that have been raised, we are considering them and we're trying to improve. I mean, even you'll see the version of the EPR regulations that will be published by Minister would have considered most of the comments that you are raising as a sector. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Right, so things do change a little bit. As a program director, my program is a bit fluid. So we're going to have time for just 2 or 3 questions. Please make them short, 20 seconds, and then Mr. Sibande will then answer. Here's one thing I love about you. You're ever smiling. Similar to Joe, very passionate about your topic. Everything he's smiling, I'm like, yeah, he loves what he does. So can I ask by a show of hands, do we have any questions for Mr. Sibande, for Lemeck? I'll come there. 1, 2. You can keep this one. I will run to the back. Please introduce yourself, pose your question as succinctly as possible. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Isaac Obeni from MTN. So my question is relating to what the department is doing in terms of this regulation. If you look at the regulations, they impose more obligation on the producers or entities that import these goods, which it causes a financial embedment to those entities, which will result in most producers increasing the prices, which will impact consumers. What is the department doing in terms of regulating that aspect, where producers will end up escalating their prices, which will have ripple effect to the consumers? Thank you.
All right. Do we have another question? Maybe he can take the two and then answer. Any more questions in the room? Doesn't look like that. Mr. Sibande, over to you. There's another one here. So I'll take the second question, then you answer them one after the other. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Alfranco. I'm from Seagen Solar. So I just want to find out the free riders, where can we report them? Because it's unfair advantage that they have in the market. So we feel very strongly about it.
All right, I think those are the two questions.
Thanks for the questions. I appreciate them. Oh, the question, Mr. Ngobeni, you see, the department in 2022, when PRO submitted their proposed EPR fees for 2022, we evaluated their fees using the requirements in the regulation. Regulation 7 specifies what are the requirements that need to be considered when determining a fee for a product. It's in Regulation 7. But that was not enough. We then had to develop other tools to make sure that the fees that are determined do not have an impact, negative impact on consumers. One of the tools we developed is an EPR fee guideline. It's a guideline which we developed using a panel of experts that were appointed by the department. And that panel of experts consisted of expertise from a number of fields. We have expertise in financial accounting, environmental science, in trade and policy, and in M&E, monitoring and evaluation. Then that team of experts put together a guideline. And that guideline was also, we also had workshops with the PROs where the guideline was presented. And the guideline also lists methodologies that need to be considered when determining a fee for a product. Then when we do, over and above that, the department also developed an EPR fee evaluation tool. Then as soon as we receive the EPR fee proposals, we check the guideline against the EPR fee evaluation tool to make sure that the fees proposed by PROs comply with the regulations. Then if the fees are not compliant with the regulations, meaning in terms of the tools that we have developed, then we reach out again to those PROs to say, please explain what you mean by this. And over and above that, the ones who receive the EPR fee proposal, we also consult with other departments. We consult with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. And that department, because it looks at the issues of competition, it looks at the issues of collusion, all those other things that we don't like. And the proposed EPR fees that we have submitted to the minister have gone through all those tests, all those checks. And just to indicate to you, even though we're still awaiting a decision now from Minister of Finance, but we did consult even with Department of Trade and Industry. They gave, our evaluation a thumbs up because they comply with the requirements in the regulations, and the PROs have also made use of the tools that we have developed so that the consumers are not unfairly overcharged by the producers. Then on the free riders, let me also indicate to this conference that we are taking the issue of free riders very, very serious. Even yesterday, we were meeting with another PRO. They raised the same issue. All we said to them, said, give us the names of those free riders. They gave us about the names of about four free riders. And on those ones, because they're not even registered with it, they don't even apply for registration late. They are not even there on the department's database. That is where some of these operations, these blessed operations will happen. They will be visited, and some punitive measures will be taken against them. So what I can request from you is, if you have got a list of free riders, please send us that list, the names of those companies. But what we'll do, we'll first verify with our database if they are indeed free riders. Once you've done with the verification, then definitely enforcement action will be instituted against those. That I promise. This year is the year of dealing with free riders as a department. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Sibande.